already know who it is. It's the radioactive Bobby Danny Limelight, United Wrestling Network World Heavyweight Champion. And make sure you tune into the Alliance blog every week. You heard it here first. Straight from Bobby.
They want NWA? Let's give them NWA.
Who are those guys?
And then there's the other guys.
We're the other guys. We're the guys nobody ever bets on.
The following program is intended for mature audiences.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show.
It's time for the Other Alliance Guys podcast with your hosts, Tim, Dave, and Jeremy.
And we're not in the stream because this is a professional podcast. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to episode 44 of the Other Alliance Guys. Well, live stream, really. We're not really a podcast. Jay kind of pointed that out overall for the Alliance. But we are the Other Alliance Guys. It's Tim and it's Dave. How you doing, Dave?
I'm doing well.
Good.
Doing
and
well.
We are presenting better than you were last week because you weren't here.
Yeah.
Down for the count. And we are missing our brother in pod this week, Jeremy, Championship Wrestling from Jeremy, who is celebrating the 1-year birthday of his granddaughter, Natalia. So congratulations, Grandpa and Natalia and all your family. Good for you guys. But we are the Other Alliance Guys, the other ones that aren't Jeremy. And we are presented by alliance-wrestling.com, your number one source for news and information around the National Wrestling Alliance. Normally we add the United Wrestling Network and various independents around the world, but Jeremy's not here tonight, so we won't be talking about the UWN. We won't be having our 3-match recap around Hollywood, Derby, Louisville, and Memphis. It's just you and me, Dave, and we're talking about NWA USA and doing some fantasy booking.
Sounds good.
We got a lot of folks in the chat already. Appreciate you guys being here. Demonetizing Mike is here. That's what I'm going to start calling him now. Did try out Media Mike for a while, but I think this one's going to stick. Glad to see you, buddy. I'm glad that you're here. Willie is here with the Tyrus joke of the day. I hesitate to throw this one up, Willie, but you're our man. Tyrus looks like something that clogs up people's toilets. Ooh. Mike says Tyrus sex tape came out, but in this video, the title belt was used as a buffet play. Hi-oh! Listen,
wow.
Willie will do the Tyrus jokes around here, okay? There you go. Look at this. Look at this one from Willie. There was an ice statue made of Tyrus in Minnesota, but it melted and became the Mississippi River. If he's at 75 and we run into him, I'm gonna trip you up, Willie, and go, that's him. It's him. It's all him the whole time. Hey, Jeremy, is Jeremy coming in? Jeremy's here. I kind of see Jeremy there. Look who it is. It's the birthday girl. How do you make you guys big here?
Look at that.
There you go.
Is that you?
Oh. It's the birthday girl. Hey, Grandpa. Hey, Natalia. How you doing?
Say hi. Tell everyone hi.
1 years old today. Well, she's got the she's setting you up for the mandible claw right now, Jeremy.
Yep. Tell him, say, if you're not watching the UWN, you're going to make me cry. And you're a horrible person if you make a cute little baby cry.
Oh, she's adorable. She's adorable. Happy birthday. Thanks for hey, there it is. There's a big smile. That a girl. How you guys doing today? Having a good day?
Yeah, great day. Had cake and ice cream, presents. Fabulous day.
Fantastic.
Y'all have a good stream.
All right. Take care.
Yep.
All right. So, guys, what we talk about today on episode 44, Spectacular Dysfunction, as we call it. We are talking about, you know what? We'll do a little bit of a Dave, I'm making you small. Sorry about that. There we go. Hey, there we go.
There.
We'll do a little roundtable, talk about a few things we want to talk about, then we'll go right into NWA USA and run down what happened this past Saturday. And then Dave's going to wrap it up with some fantasy booking around the Crockett Cup. Are the championship titles going to be defended there, guys? Or, is everybody going to be in tag teams? So Dave was going to get to that. Willie says he isn't afraid of the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, Tim. No, I think, if you're basically ambulatory, you're fine. I don't think he's going to catch any one of us. The boss is here. Hey, boss.
What's up, Jay?
Jeremy, don't let Tyrus crash your granddaughter's party. Oh, he's not going to let that happen. But hey, listen, Dave, let's talk about a few things. We got the Crockett Cup coming up, and we know already who about half of the 24 teams are going to be. I just kind of wrote them down as they were sort of announced, but I'll run through them now. I don't have anything to throw on the screen, but we know, for example, that we've got Chris Adonis and Tyrus. We, of course, have La Rebellion as World Tag Team Champions and the Country Gentlemen as U.S. Tag Team Champions. We know Knox and Murdoch are involved. We know there are two teams that I'm going to just murder the names of from AAA, which is awesome. I think that's great. One is Mystiz. Am I saying that even remotely correctly? Junior and Octagon Junior.
Octagon Junior, yeah.
And then Toxin and Arez. I am not familiar with any of these guys. Are you familiar with them?
Arez has done some MLW. They're not high up on the chain, but they are good, and it's good that with the NWA doing a show down in Mexico, it's good to have any representation of AAA. Now, ideally, if there were at least one team that could possibly come from Australia, from the Australian tour, if there was one team that could come over that fought against La Rebellion, that would be even better.
Yeah.
Just to have some representation of everywhere that the NWA has been and is possibly going.
Yeah, great.
But I think they can basically round out almost all 24 teams. When you look back on the Crockett Cup, it wasn't, granted, it is about tag teams, but it's not always about a tag team. There were a lot of teams that were thrown together and a lot of teams that won that were just thrown together. I'm looking at this as, let's go in there, make some new teams. If they stick, they stick. If they don't, you create storyline amongst those partners that didn't work out, or one blames another for them not moving on. So it's one of those things that I'll get into the discussion about the titles when I do the booking. That has a lot to do with it, that it can go good, bad, or it can even go indifferent. And in the middle, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. You move on.
Right. That's excellent point. We got to try stuff before we can, and keep that in the back pocket that it can be dropped if it doesn't work out. Jay says Octagon Junior team with Commander versus Scion and Homicide. So these are the Mexican shows that Jay actually went to during the World is a Vampire tour in Mexico. Arez was in the mixed tags against Stevens, and he's the Blue Demon Legacy champion.
Oh, okay, cool.
Hey, here's Jer right now. Well, I don't believe Tyrus could make it through my front door. I don't have the fancy double doors, and I'm nowhere near as big, and it's tight. They are savage in the chat. Savage in the chat for Tyrus today. Oh, look at this. If Tyrus was a payphone, his weight would be the unlisted number. Oh, come on. Come on. Savage. Willie's got a good pick, though. The sons of Kevin Von Erich, the Von Erichs, he hopes, he prays that they'll enter the Crockett Cup. You know, out of the 8 I already named, there was also Magnum Muscle after that, and the Mortons are in it. I believe that would be 10. And then, of course, we've got the winners from NWA USA this past week. The Spectaculars face a team of Rolando Freeman and Eric Jackson. And, of course, the winners of Judias and Max the Impaler versus Father James, the Miserably Faithful, which we'll get to. So that'll be 12 teams currently by my count. We know that the manager of champions, the champion of managers, Pollo Del Mar, was in the chat here last week and mentioned that there are some teams that, we're going to be surprised, hopefully pleasantly so. We look forward to that. So maybe the Von Erichs are an option. Do you know if they're wrestling anywhere, Dave?
I've seen them listed as wrestling maybe once or twice in the last 3 to 4 months. That they finished up, I believe, back in December for MLW, and they haven't been mentioned since. And I mean, they are a good legacy team. I mean, their uncles and their father have dealings with the NWA down in Texas. And I mean, it would be good for them as well as the NWA. It would be beneficial for both. Yeah,
100%. Maybe they're just taking a couple months off and enjoying life in Hawaii. I think that's where they live. Here's Willie. Mike, says, agree with Willie on the Von Erichs. All these so-called supposed hopefuls from different promotions such as AAA, maybe A&W with speculation on FTR. Well, they're signed there now, so that doesn't seem likely, but boy, wouldn't that be great. But I'd rather it be an NWA team. Willie likes the Motor City Machine Guns. And the Posse should be in the Crockett Cup. I think the Posse just broke up. Not with each other, but from the stuff I was watching on Memphis the last 2 weeks, it looked like little Chris was hanging it up anyway. I think that's the big one. Big Chris. So I don't know that they're a team anymore. I mean, I don't know. If we're going to go UWN, I'd rather see, in deference to our main man, Jeremy, Reno Scum or Beef Candy. I can't do it like he does. Or Midnight Heat. One of those teams would be great. But let's shift gears just for a sec, because that makes me think of a podcast. I recently saw a clip from, I think it's called Arm Bars and Sidebars.
Yeah.
With Dave Marquez. And it was just a 2-minute clip on YouTube where, he explained that he wasn't asked back for that season of the NWA. And to this day, he doesn't really know why. And it's all business. And, he doesn't seem super sore by the whole thing. But at the end of that clip, he was asked, and I'm sort of paraphrasing here, is it over? Is that it? Would he never go back? He said, kind of without saying these exact words, never say never. It's business. And if there's money to be made, then that's something that he would keep in mind. What would you think about a collaboration between Dave Marquez Productions and Billy Corrigan's NWA?
I mean, I'm for anything that helps anybody bump themselves up a little on the ladder of success. And I mean, from what Dave has done, it's phenomenal. Being an independent, being with the NWA, then being out of the NWA. Then when the NWA came back, he was part of it again. It's one of these things, anything that can help independent wrestling grow and be more successful down the line,
Yeah.
I'm for. But it's all taking the opportunity that's given. And I've heard all these different things. I wasn't in the studio or backstage when any of this happened, so it's all hearsay to me. But it's one of these things of, if you can work with somebody, even if you don't personally agree with their tactics or the way they do things, work with them, better
Right.
yourself, that you yourself look better being able to work with somebody that you quote unquote have a past with,
Right.
whether it's good or bad. If you can work professionally with somebody that you personally don't like, all that really makes sense in the end is, was it successful? If it's successful, you can keep doing what you're doing. If it's not, shake hands and part ways.
I 100% agree. You know, I often work with people, not immediately around me, but you know, we all do. We work with people we're not big friends of. It's all got to get done, no matter what our business is. At the end of the day, we're all here for the same reason. Let me go back to the chat. This is funny. That's maybe the best one in a while, Willie. When Tyra steps on the digital scale, it says LOL.
Wow.
Wow, savage. Big Chris Dog, as Jaden calls him. Chris Drummond, good to see you, my friend. OVW has some teams for the Crockett Cup. Wouldn't mind seeing a couple of those, Dave.
I mean, I don't know what they're actually looking for. They're saying up to 24 teams.
Yeah.
And last year, I believe they did like a 4-team buy-in. So it was a fatal four-way, and that team worked their way into the first round. So if they take the champions out of it and give them a first round bye, you're short 2 teams. So hopefully they'll do 24 teams and they'll do 2 4-man scrambles, and then those 2 teams will be put into the first round. So there's 8 teams outside of the NWA, or a second chance for an NWA team that has lost in a qualifying match.
Yeah, the website says 24 teams. I know May Valentine's been saying that on the show. So what that, I like 16 or I like 32. It's honestly 16 a little bit more than I like 32. But
yeah,
because if you look at the old Crockett Cups, I'm sure would go the same way with double countouts and, you know, double disqualifications and, you know, whatever it might be, just to get through some of those matches. It gets to be a bit much. 24 makes me think, if there's 3 sections of 8, then you get 3 teams at a finals. I don't dig that. I want 2 teams for tag team wrestling at the finals.
No, but if you do 24 and you do 2 4-man scrambles, then you're just taking 2 of 8 teams. If you take our champions out of the first round and put them automatically in the second round
As buys, yeah.
As buys, there you go. You got 16 teams.
Yeah. But you'd have to take 8 teams out to do buys, unless I'm not doing the math right.
Yeah.
Into the second round, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you'd have, I don't know. We'll see how it works out. We could speculate all day. Yeah, listen, speaking of speculation, Mike says, we all want to see these teams. Speculation, however, is Billy willing to make the relationships to get them? I guess we'll find out. I mean, obviously, he's picked it up with AAA from the World is a Vampire tour. Mm-hmm. I'm very happy, to Dave's earlier point, to see some representation from Mexico. I'd love to see a team from Australia. So we'll see how that goes. Google Iske, hello, welcome. Don't know familiar with the name in the chat, but welcome. Please speak your mind. Glad to have you here. Willie says the Wolf Zaddies should be in the Crockett Cup. Also, Papa Esco and Slice Boogie, 100% yes to both of those. how did I even not put them in my UWN list? That's well, the Wolf Zaddies are now the Mighty Zaddies, I guess, aren't they?
Yeah.
The Mighty Don't Kneel and the Wolf Zaddies having kind of combined together. And also the Bodega. Would you like to see Papa Esco make his way over and slice Boogie?
Oh, ever since I saw him first debut in championship wrestling, I don't have the money to fly out and watch a taping, but I watch him on, I just dig his vibe.
Yeah.
And he is old school all the way. And hell, just bring him in and throw him with Homicide and just let him tear it up.
Yeah. Friend of the Alliance done an interview with Jay Collin the last year. Papa Esco. Slice Boogie, by the way, was on commentary in the UWN this past week because he's been recovering from, I think, a hamstring or an ACL injury.
Mm-hmm.
And he looks like $1,000,000. He has put in the work, as Jay said earlier today. He looks cut. So good for him. Mike says, I don't blame Dave Marquez talking about, that podcast we were on about. He has no reason to be sore. It's just biz. UWN is fine on its own and what the NWA should be at this point. It's certainly an old NWA model, having different cities that they're taping from, with Championship Wrestling presented by Car Shield, with Memphis Wrestling, and with Derby City Wrestling. And it, two of those shows are spectacularly produced. So I agree. It would be that's certainly the production value and the storyline that I want to see. Willie says, I would love to see Kongo Kino and Manabu Soya, the current All Japan Pro Wrestling Tag Team Champions in the Crockett Cup. 100%, man. The more the merrier. Let's bring these guys over. But to Mike's comment earlier, does Billy have the relationships? Is that something that can happen? I do want to talk about, since I got into this to sort of ramble on about podcasts, I just want to take a second. I'm going to put something in the chat here, a link that I want you guys to copy and consider watching. There is a podcast that Dodi Kusamanto, is definitely a friend to the Alliance. He's an Alliance fan member. He posted it up in the Alliance Wrestling Discord, and it was a look at the NWA, almost specifically the NWA World's Championship, World's Heavyweight Championship in Japan from the 1950s to around the late 80s. He talks about the 90s and the early 2000s as well. There is a large variety of topics from these two gentlemen at the Fight Game Media Network. I'm not familiar with the podcast overall. It's called Write That Down, but this one specifically, the history of the NWA in Japan. Fumi Saito and Justin Nipper are the two guys who were talking about it. They start with everything from Lou Thez and what he meant, what the title meant in Japan. Fumi being in Japan, born and raised there and there now, talking about what it was like for Japanese fans and why the NWA World's title was so legit to them. It was the #1 undisputed World's Heavyweight Championship. He talks about different relationships throughout the 60s that the NWA had with different promoters. He talks about what Dory Funk Jr. and Gene Kiniski meant. He talks about everything from the Funks and Bruiser Brody and Jumbo Saruta and everything. And it's about an hour and a half. And I am a kind of guy who picks my podcasts very selectively. I like what I like. But Dodi recommended this one, and I listened to it, and I'm telling you, the knowledge base from Fumi Saito, just about not just his perceptions, but the historical data, Korakuen Hall, the Tokyo Dome, what it was like, when Ric Flair came there. And I highly, highly recommend this this podcast to you guys. So consider that throwing in your browser and giving it a listen. I tweeted it out online as well, just because I was so impressed. And, I listen to a lot of great podcasts for wrestling, Dave. I like Pope's Point of View. I like Busted Open. I know you're a big Busted Open guy. And, even our friend, our friends over at the NWA, Gary and Will, with their, it used to be This Is the NWA. Maybe it kind of is again. This is pro wrestling for the NWA. Live streaming with Gally and Danny Deals. It's great stuff. This is an educational hour and a half step above all the stuff that you're seeing, and really worth the watch. Are you familiar with Fight Game Network and some of their shows?
No. When I saw it, I actually looked it up at work today, and I'm going to have to give it a listen. And it's one of these things that you really don't know about the past unless you dig into it.
Yeah.
Because, for some of us, the 90s and the Attitude Era and WCW, that was the start of wrestling. I go back to the 70s. So I started way, way young. But it's one of these things, you may know of some of the older champions and the names, but you don't know the actual history.
Right.
And why they are the names that you keep hearing. So it's stuff like this that if you're interested in the NWA and you also like Japanese wrestling, hey, this sounds like it's great. I'm not really into Japanese wrestling, but giving this a listen, it may pique my interest and I may go on a deep dive. Who knows where this rabbit hole may go.
It was really interesting too, just from one last perspective, for Fumi Saito was saying, the world being a much different place back during the time of like Ric Flair, say, and the Dome Globe, and Harley Race's belt, as he continuously calls it, right? But the Japanese perspective was, it was, this is how we saw things in Japan, and we only kind of distantly heard about what was happening in America. Same as the other way around for this particular time. And he has stories like, just little things I'd never heard of before. Like he'd say, Ric Flair dropped that championship for like 2 days in Japan. And then I'd be like, oh, we have a new world champion. And then I'd read about it in a magazine later that, oh, he lost it, in a non-televised match back to whoever had won it, back to Ric Flair. And I'm like, that's stuff we never even really heard of. Just a phantom title change in Japan that was only there for a Japanese audience. So I thought it was really cool. So maybe you and I'll talk about it later after you hear it. But
Okay.
Willie says All Japan with Giant Baba had a good working affiliate with NWA Pro Wrestling. They did. They certainly did. And there's a whole bunch of stories about why that ended up going that way instead of going Antonio Inoki's way. Willie adds, when he was in the United States Navy, he was stationed in Japan. He saw Ric Flair versus Harley Race and Ric Flair versus Dave Von Erich at Sumo Hall. Wow. I saw the only NWA World Title defense I ever saw was Sabu against Larry Destiny and some other guy in a bingo hall in Toronto. So, wow, Billy, you got one up over me, my friend. I think Jay's going to talk about all of the major stuff tomorrow, Jay and Jaden. And joining them, I believe, tomorrow night is Rick Del Santo of the PWZ podcast. They're going to be talking about power and what happened this past week. I wanted to ask you, I wanted to ask the chat, however, just a couple of thoughts. What did you think, Dave, about Chris Adonis and Tyrus teaming up? And what did you think of their match against BFT?
I like that it's showing a little tension, that they're on the same, or they're in the same book, but they're not on the same page.
Right.
That they have some things to work out, and in my mind, they can work as a team, but Adonis is still wanting to go after the 10 pounds of gold, or the 12 pounds of gold, as Tyrus calls it. So it's a team of convenience, that Adonis is doing the favor to get another favor.
Right.
That I see this going one more match for the championship, whether it be at the second day of Crockett Cup, if they don't make it through, or if it goes to 75, or if somebody new steps up, who knows?
It did seem like a good way to extend to a second match, like have the wheels fall off somehow at the Crockett Cup.
Mm-hmm.
You know, one blames the other, and the champ just goes, you know what, we'll see you tomorrow night. You know, or whatever it might be, right?
Yeah.
So even if they don't advertise Tyrus versus Adonis, they could still have it. They've done that 100 times before. Not advertising, I mean, and then having
Yeah.
that. So that'll be interesting. Tonight, not right after this podcast, but at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, J Cal is going to be doing another Sessions interview. You got to find your banner, boss. This time with wrestler and West Coast personality and YouTube wrestling analyst Mikey O'Shea, who I looked up today. Pretty solid wrestler. I like the Irish car bomb finisher. It's pretty neat stuff. So he'll be talking to him about a number of things tonight. You know, his WCCW, I'm sure, time with, he was a 2-time which is West Coast Wrestling Connection, WCWC, I guess. Tag team champion. He did that with Caleb Conley and Gangrel, so he's been around the block for the last decade or more.
Mm-hmm.
He's been their legacy champion, so we look forward to tuning into that one later tonight. Hope you guys will be there. And also, just to kind of finish up on podcasts. Oops, I closed everything, of course. Rick Del Santo, as I mentioned, from PWZ, is going to be on with Jay and Jaden tomorrow. Rick's a real close friend of the Alliance and does some amazing stuff interview-wise over there. Jacques Rougeau is the one I remember the most recently that he's had on the broadcast. Take down this web address as well and take a look at this.
PWZ Podcast with Rick Del Santo. For all your wrestling reviews, interviews, and news, Rick covers the United Wrestling Network, the NWA, and the Northeast region of the United States independent scene. PWZ keeps you in the zone.
Or if you're Canadian like me, PWZ. That's all I can say. Willie out in the chat just before we get into NWA USA says Tyrus should have been defending the 10 pounds of gold during the Crockett Cup instead of being in a tag tournament. I agree. What do you think, Dave?
Yes, but I still think he will.
Right.
I think there's going to be an implosion, and with all the different members of Idol Sports Management and Church's Money seemingly going their different ways and not being on the same page, I do believe we'll see a 10 pounds of gold defense on day 2.
I think you're right. And to that point, Willie says Sion or Jordan Clearwater will be the factors into Tyrus losing the 10 pounds of gold. You can almost see that happening, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe and there's some situation where one of those or those two guys or both team up and they just, work over Tyrus. Maybe Adonis just steps off the apron and, he's too beat up in night 2 to properly defend the title with any. Maybe that's his way out of the championship. I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, there's so many different ways that they can go. I'll go into the title defenses in the fantasy booking, but I mean, they're building up quite a few contenders for every belt.
They are.
And that's just, to me, that's preparing for the future. I mean, mix it up. I mean, Bully coming out on NWA programming and calling Tom Latimer a future NWA champion. You can't get much better than that.
It's true. Crowd responded very positively too.
So it's like, okay, Tom's at what? I think 3 defenses. He's got a couple more. They could work it. So at 75, he may be a contender for 10 pounds of gold, no matter who holds it.
Right. Yeah. I think he's got, honestly, as much as I love Tom Latimer, I think he's got to be built up even more. I think there's ways to go, and there's some time before 75, which I know we're going to. So I look forward to it happening there. I want to see the change in the World Championship title right there. Let's take a look at NWA USA. Let's get into our deep dive. Saturday, May 6th, 2023. That's the year, in case Mike didn't know. I'm sorry, Mike. I'm just kidding. 9 out of the 10 voices in my head say I'm crazy, and the 10th one is just humming. So, there's no cold open to this for the first time, I think, in a long time. I, for some reason, found that very jarring. I just thought I'd bring it up like, oh, it's the theme song.
Yeah.
It's the video package. But anyway, we open with a Crockett Cup qualifying match between the Spectaculars against Rolando Freeman and Eric Jackson. So you got Brady Pierce and you got Rush Freeman on one side of the ring. You've got his brother Rolando and Eric Jackson on the other side. The special referee for this match, inexplicably, however, is Homicide. The first things I wrote down, Dave, were what? Why?
Yep.
But I mean, right off the bat, I didn't get why he needed to do this. So I'll run through it. Rolando, we're told Rolando is mad at Rush. I had kind of thought from before, when he kind of a week previous had pushed him around outside the ring, he was trying to get him mad, get in there and fight, but he's mad at him for losing probably so much because poor Rush, that's what he does, unfortunately. And Rolando wants him first. He wants his brother first. He doesn't want Brady Pierce. Rush is in and they argue. And Rolando Freeman starts to out wrestle his brother. He escapes one of those release or exploder suplexes, I think they're called. But he gets up and he rolls, or he gets a roll up. Excuse me. He hits a cannonball in the corner. Rush does tag in Brady. Brady does the dance, the hip smacking dance with Rolando, before also out wrestling Brady, Rolando, that is, stomping him on the foot. And finally, Rolando eats a boot and tags in Jackson. Eric Jackson gets the best 1 minute or 2 minutes of his NWA career so far, Dave. He's on fire. He hits a nice sling blade. His dropkick looked a little short, but hey, he looks like $1 million out there physically. He had a nice, crisp power slam, a speedy one off of the ropes. He himself gets power slammed by Brady, who tags in Rush. There's an inverted atomic drop, boot to the face combo, where Rolando climbs in during a headlock spot, like a rest spot. And of course, as we mentioned, Homicide, inexplicably, the referee here boots him out. But a moment later, Eric manages to get a hot tag. Rolando's in the ring and he's throwing his little fists around. He has more fight in him in this match than both of the Spectaculars put together. Homicide gets him off Brady Pierce in the corner, and he's shoved aside twice, and Homicide starts doing that. I don't think I'm going to take this very much longer bit. There was a spot where Homicide responds for the second or third time in being shoved by tossing Rolando down and ordering him to the outside of the apron, which was weird. I don't know if you noticed this, Dave, but he was a legal man at the time.
Yeah.
Anyway, he climbs to the top rope. Homicide orders him down. Rolando argues. Homicide pushes him onto the top rope. He kind of looks like he takes a fairly nasty spill on the top rope. Brady just pulls him down and covers. Homicide, fast count for the pin. Wow, a lot to unpack there. Over to you, my friend. What did you think?
That was about the longest 5 minutes on TV that I've seen in a long time.
It's true.
They could have shortened things up or made it a little more logical. Give us an explanation as to why is Homicide the special guest referee? For what reason?
Right.
Just say Billy has appointed him due to the fact that there was a fight in the back and Homicide stopped the fight from happening and they've decided to settle it in the ring.
Right. He's got no dog in this fight and he's a tough guy. It'll be him.
That's a reason. Okay, it may not be the best reason.
Right.
But it's a reason. It's cause and effect.
Right.
Why is this match happening besides being a qualifying match? What's the storyline? It's the Freeman brothers. Why are they pissed at each other? Give us a little flashback of the last couple matches. Hey, this is what brought about this match. Boom. Little 30 seconds of this, little 20 seconds of this. Okay, that's an explanation. That's why. But
right.
it's one of these things that I'm hoping they're trying to build up the Spectaculars and that they're able to make it past the first round. This match, Eric Jackson was strong while he was in the match, but the storyline kept him strong, being that Rolando was the loser in the tag in the match. That it's storyline, that he took his beating and he kept out of the ring. That this story was a Freeman family story that ended with a victory for the Spectaculars. So I thought it was good in keeping Eric Jackson, not having him involved at the end of the match.
He didn't get pinned for once.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's even in a loss, he looked good.
Yep.
And I'm just hoping they do the right thing and try to push the Spectaculars, because both of those guys are good wrestlers. They just haven't been given a chance. They've been in this stupid storyline where they're in the background of Rolando. They need to step ahead of him and only have him manage them if it makes sense.
I agree. That makes sense to me. Let's get these two guys who I mean, the Spectaculars have obviously we've joked about them before as a team. They haven't been successful. You know, there's two good looking young kids there. They're in great shape. Who are coming along a little bit. It's just not clicking with, and they're just being in the background of Rolando. I just don't see it either. But that means that we have our 11th team by my count. 11th team in the Spectaculars going to the Crockett Cup, where I will bet you $5 right here and now. I'll even make it U.S. money. They do not survive the first round. It's no way. They're a walkthrough for somebody. Anyway, you usually pick these things better than I do. I'm never more than 50% right, which is great. That's why I love pro wrestling. We get May Valentine with Salvation and Gags. She asks, has leaving Father Mitchell been painful? And Sal, in a very sing-songy, I'm spaced out, I'm totally crazy voice, says, pain is temporary, love is eternal. All he needs in this life is him and his best friend. This was actually a pretty cool moment for me because May goes, oh, Sal, like he's kind of back. And we go back like, I don't know how many seasons, Dave, like 4 seasons or 3 seasons or something, where it used to be Sal the Pal and his best friend May, and Royce Isaacs hated that as her boyfriend.
Yep.
Like, it was such almost a Easter egg, moment, like that they went back that far to something so small. And he says, like, he's talking about his best friend, Gags. She's like, oh. But she does say tonight you face Max the Impaler and Judas. And Sal says that he's seen the bodies, but all you need is love. And she asks Gags, what do you think your chances are? Gags undoes the zipper on his mask, sticks his tongue out, and he holds out one finger. What did you think of this interview?
It got the story across. It's one of these things that if you don't realize the gentlemen that are the Miserably Faithful, both of them are very good wrestlers. They've had their time, but they're playing a part. They're helping the storylines move, and they're helping either the current or the possible future of the NWA when they wrestle. Right. And I mean, Gags, the man behind the mask, is a great guy and a great wrestler. I just personally don't like the gimmick, but I'm glad that he does have a chance to express himself. And when he does wrestle, he's a very competent wrestler. Same thing with Sal. They're just playing characters to help move the storyline along. And if you choose to just look beyond the storyline, I just enjoy the wrestling.
Yep. Yeah, and both of those guys can wrestle.
Yep.
It's funny, doesn't Sal look better bald?
It shocked me when I saw him when he came out bald, and I'm just like, wow, okay. Granted, the beard, it's still Sal, but it's a new start, and I do like that they've changed somewhat from Sal the Pal to Salvation.
Right.
So now they just have to make sure that the continuity between the interviews and when they have the matches, that everybody's on the same page and they're calling him the same name that he's now going by.
Yeah, you're right. Media Mike says, for myself, that segment wasn't needed. Past couple of weeks, we've seen the turmoil in the ring. The following match was enough to get the point across with what they did with Judas. You did mention before, however, as well, as far as Freeman and Pierce, yes, they can be pushed, but maybe there's a reason why Rolando is their mouthpiece. Maybe the other two can't really convey anything over a mic besides a couple words. 100%. And I'll say that till I'm blue in the face. Rolando has value in the NWA. He's great on the mic. I like that scrappy little. It's not the size of the dog in the fight bit, right? He just needs to, as Willie points out, stay out of the ring. His presence in the ring only makes the Spectaculars a novelty act, wrestling tag team. Laying bricks. When Jay interviewed Thrill Billy, Silas didn't have anything nice to say about his co-star Pierce. Well, I don't know about that. So, welcome, by the way. I feel like I this is a different name for someone that I already know, but I am notoriously of bad memory. So, welcome. Who do we get next? Angelina Love, the Psycho Girl versus Kylie Page. This one started out. I actually it's Jay. It's Jay on a different account. Hey, I could kind of know you. I have a ton of accounts. Angelina Love takes on Kylie Page. Dave, I actually like how this one started out. The way that Angelina Love just kind of oozed veteran confidence. They talked about it with the commentary as well. And Kylie looking a little bit unsure, despite being a cocky, kind of mean girl almost. I liked the way it looked. Love got the crowd to pop a little bit with the chant of Psycho, because they were, everybody wants to boo somebody, and she manhandles Kylie a bit, who, kind of tosses her into a buckle and slaps her around. Love offers her hand in friendship and kicks her in the gut when she, the rookie falls for it. She kind of takes control early on as the cagey veteran, but there is a bad inside cradle that interrupts it a second before she continues to just beat on Kylie. There's a power slam and a cover by Love. I thought the comment at this point, just to drive that the veteran is teaching the young up and coming kid, the rules of the road, came from Tim Storm. It's not nice to play with your food. I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Kylie does recover for a 2 count of her own after a side Russian leg sweep. She misses a charge going into the turnbuckle. She stumbles back out. She eats a Botox injection right in the lips where you're supposed to get them. And she takes a 3 count. What did you think of this match?
The match itself was good. Kylie looked good even in a loss. But Love, she got the win, and there was really no reason.
Right.
They're almost up and down with Kylie getting a win in the last 2 weeks to build up pretty empowered. Mm-hmm. That it's almost like this match was put in the wrong episode. That it may have been a good starting point for her to lose to a veteran, but then she ends up a couple weeks later defeating Sierra to make her look strong. That it's one of these things. Angelina Love, as a veteran, you look at her and go, yeah, I'd expect her to win. But I actually think that her and Fodder work better together as Psycho Love, doing their own little thing with the kendo stick and the Psycho and all this. They almost need each other to be successful. That her winning, it was expected because she is the veteran, but it almost sidetracks Kylie, who is building on hey, she's a brand new signee to the NWA. She's Kenzie's little sister. She's this, she's this. They've had success, and it puts her almost in a holding pattern.
Right.
That she's doing good. She won a couple matches. Then she lost to a veteran, but she's still almost there. She's learning as she goes. But I would have put this match a couple weeks ago and had her lose to build up to win against Sierra.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things. The match itself wasn't bad. I think it was just placed in the wrong episode.
I think kind of to your point too, and well, to Mike's here too, love getting the win. Why? It's not like she's a face with fodder. Two heels going at it for no reason at all. But like you say, they win some, they lose some, and it doesn't get anybody over.
Yeah,
it doesn't really help anyone position anywhere on the card. You know, we all know Eric Jackson and Rush Freeman don't win matches, right? Like that's currently their spot on the card, and that can change and probably should at some point. But you know, if everybody wins and loses some like that at that level on the card, then I don't see the value in it either, let alone that they're both heels. But Mike says only thing psycho about fodder is what Billy thinks is booking in his booking for him. Yes, my cat was here. He's a lot of fun. Hey Rick, good to see you, my friend. Thank you for popping in.
What's up, Rick?
Looking forward to watching you with Jaden and J. Kyle tomorrow night on the original Alliance Guys podcast, the OG crew, filling in for DK, taking a night off. So that was Love versus Kylie. Then we get May with Pollo Del Mar. And I'm going to kind of like read the synopsis here, and it's not going to sound like anything, but there was a professionalism, I'll just say up front for me in this promo. You know, it wasn't, I'm not trying to suggest as I talk about this promo from Pollo that it was Dusty Rose delivering a Hard Times promo, but it was one of the clearest, most concise, direct, and good promos that I've seen in the NWA for a long time. And so May's with Pollo and says, Thrillbilly's been on a roll, and they say it's because of you. And Pollo puts over Silas as a generational talent. Love that phrase.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, you know, I'm with him because I consider myself, Pollo Del Mar, to be a generational talent. You know, he is one, but so am I. And since it's my great honor and opportunity to be by Thrillbilly's side, I'm very proud to be here. And May says, so EC3 is going to face Latimer for the TV title. It'll be Mason versus EC3 for the national title at the Crockett Cup. And Pollo, who we know, who was here last week in the chat, was saying they're so excited about being part of the Crockett Cup. You know, Pollo and I both share the Crockett Cup as like numero uno for the pay-per-views that we love from years ago. Was always my favorite. She's so excited about being in the Crockett Cup pay-per-view and taking part in that. And they're focused on one thing and one thing only, the national title for the Thrillbilly Silas Mason. So as I say, Dave, as I read that, doesn't sound like much, pretty straightforward, but the way it was delivered and with the professionalism, I just thought, hell of a promo. What did you think?
It's heartfelt. It's not, I'm reading off of a piece of paper that somebody gave me.
Right.
It may have been written down. It may have had bullet points. But you could hear it in Pollo's voice.
Right.
Pollo made the promo believable. And that's all you want. You may love wrestling and you know it's a worked fight, but make me believe at least some of it's real.
Right.
It's a real person in there. It's not CGI. It's not digital effects. It's not any of this. There's people hitting each other. There's people yelling. There's people making noise. You have your good guy. You have your bad guy. You have two bad guys. You have two good guys. Whatever the fight in the ring, whatever is happening, bring me to that moment. And that's what that promo that Pollo gave, I believed it.
Yeah. And if you guys haven't seen USA and you're like, I don't watch that part of the NWA, just go track that clip down. Just like it's how to deliver. It was A to Z, how to deliver a good promo. Rick asks, is Thrillbilly a future NWA world champion? Well, I'll answer in a second. Willie says Dak Draper, Blake Bulletproof Troop, Kratos, Mims, or Odinson I would rather see win the 10 pounds of gold. Not me. I wouldn't pick any of those guys for NWA World Champion. Chris Adonis, 100%. And so for the difference between Chris Adonis and any of those guys, Willie, and I love you, Willie, your opinions are totally valid, is that Chris Adonis is somebody that is recognized across pro wrestling beyond the NWA. It's why Tyrus is world champion right now. Trevor Murdoch had WWE experience. Nick Aldis was, had Impact media around him. That it takes that level to get to the 10 pounds of gold. Is Thrillbilly a future NWA world champion? For me, I would say I hope so. Yes. But I think it's going to rely on outside media from beyond the NWA. So for the Iron Claw movie, if the Iron Claw movie goes over really, really well, and, he becomes a star, like, and lightning catches in a bottle, as they say, why not? He's over with our crowds. But I think it takes an extra push outside the NWA to become a world champion. What do you think, Dave?
Yes. In what you're saying, we know who Thrillbilly is.
Right.
I feel Thrillbilly fits in 110% with what the NWA used to be and what the NWA is partly today. But I mean, you look at him and you're just like, I can hear in my head Gordon Soley calling his match.
Right.
Just because he has the classic NWA Southern wrestler look. His promos are fire.
Yep.
If you haven't caught what he did when he was down in Australia, I mean, some of the promos, he doesn't care whether he's a good guy, a bad guy, if they're cheering for him, booing, whatever. He's getting a response.
Sure.
He's doing it the old-fashioned way. He is building up. The way he wrestles is the way he wrestles. The way he talks is the way he talks. It's one of these things of they say, oh, your best character is in 110%. He believes what he is doing, and he's just doing it.
Yeah.
He's not playing a character. He is the Thrillbilly. So I would love to see him go on as national champion for maybe a 6-month run.
Mm-hmm.
And then being that 75 is so close to Crockett Cup, I don't know if I would push him to the 10 pounds yet. Make him work for it. He is he's another almost Dusty Rhodes type.
Right.
That he keeps going and going, that he's the common man. That he wants the belt, but he definitely has to fight for it. And if it takes another 6 months, if he wins the national championship and then takes another 6 months for him to go after Tyrus, let Tyrus hold the belt for another 6 months. That's the guy you need the switch on.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I want it,
Right.
but it's one of those things. There are so many people that they're building for the upper tier of belts, the national level, and the 10 pounds of gold, that there's 3, 4, 5 people that can be interchangeable and can make those belts mean something by winning or losing. But they have to do the right thing and know when to flip the switch and put a belt on somebody new.
I agree. Our friend Rusty Loudermilk, welcome back, Rusty, says you're right. Thrillbilly's a star. And, you know, I think Mike is saying what I was saying as well. Chris Adonis was on a worldwide stage like Tyrus for years on TV. You need people such as them for a period of time to get the eyes and build name recognition more than what's currently presented. I often, when I'm talking about this point, Tyrus in a Barney costume, when I'm talking about that point, it's like the reason I got back into the NWA in 2019 was my friend Jeff, right? Saying, hey, you know, Rock and Roll Express just won the NWA World Tag Team titles. I'm like, what? You know, and it drew me back in. And Chris Adonis could pull that same stuff out at Crockett Cup or whenever should he win the title to say, hey, you know, Chris Adonis won the NWA World title. Who? You know, Chris Masters? Really? He's got that name recognition. Rusty asks, can the NWA ever get larger under Billy Yabo Clown Corgan? I think that's a bigger question. Maybe we'll make that a topic next week. I think yes. I think that there is the opportunity there, but obviously some right decisions need to be made for that to happen. Yeah, Mike says Scooby. Imagine if Soley and Lance Russell calling a Thrillbilly match. I mean, come on. You know who he reminds me of? Have you ever seen? Actually, both Family Guy and like F is for Family had like a character who was basically an Evel Knievel ripoff, which you and I all remember. You know, some guy with a mullet, just like a crazed U.S. flag, basically draped over his body. That's what he reminds me of. Thrillbilly, that southern version of that. I think he's awesome. Mike says, I'll be honest, we all know how I felt about the Tharp era and whatnot. But when I heard Storm losing to Aldis and Billy's new run, having it on Facebook for all to see, then I returned to the NWA. Yeah. You got a name, you got something happening, brings people back, Dave. Solely was the greatest ever.
Yep.
I don't think there's too many people who argue that. Let's get through to the last match after that fire promo from Pollo Del Mar. We get Judias and Max, the Impaler, with Father James Mitchell versus the Miserably Faithful, Salvation and Gags the Gimp, Crockett Cup qualifying match. So the Miserably Faithful, which I'll explain in a second, I mean Gags and Salvation, come out to kind of a strange romantic piano music. Sal is bald now. And Deal says Jimmy Mitchell, as he calls him, told him he doesn't care if they have the Miserably Faithful name, and if he ever wants it back, he'll just take it from them. I always looked at Miserably Faithful, Dave, as a stable name for anyone managed by Father James Mitchell. So I initially found that a bit odd, but the Miserably Faithful name, I guess, moving forward is Salvation and Gags. So Judias says, get down and kiss my feet, just like the last time they had met. And they look like they might. They kind of cower and bend down. And then they rise up and they attack Judias with punches. until which is gets a nice little pop, yay, from the crowd, until Max the Impaler gets involved. Judias and Max both flatten Gags in the corner. Max tosses him to Judias, who feeds Gag a really good-looking boot to the head. The bell finally rings at this point as Judias steps out and Gags kind of tags in Sal. He heads to a corner. He dodges Max a couple times before just sitting down cross-legged like he does and walking and clapping. Max feeds him a knee, which I thought was pretty good. And tags in Judias. He just kind of spikes Sal down with a release vertical suplex. Max and follows up with a rolling senton. It's a tag team, a double team move from these guys. Judias is going to hit a pile driver on Sal. He scrambles through his legs and tags in Gags. Gag starts with the chops in the forearms. Judias kind of seems to like it, giving a come on. He's a super tough guy, high pain threshold the whole bit. He hits a release suplex on Gags. Tag to Max, and they kind of fling Gags across the ring. Lots of chops. They tries to get at his tongue at one point. There's it's a beating. It's Judias back in with a running shoulder block and a spine buster that was pretty good. Max is back in, and they continue to lay the beating on Gags. There's yet another tag. Judias toys with Gags with these little slaps across the face. Who seems like he maybe gets kind of excited, sigh, but is soon smothered between the two of them as they kind of mush him and pancake him up. I wrote too much for this match. Anyway, in the corner, Gags is held up by Judias, manages to dodge the incoming Max. He gets the hot tag to Sal as Max tags in Judias. Sal does kind of an airplane spin without ever lifting Judias up. He just kind of runs in a circle, spinning Judias around, and then hits a super kick. He hits a 619, or as they called it for a little while in the NWA, the 666, I believe he called it.
Yeah.
I would have called it the 665, the neighbor of the beast. I think that would have been funnier for Sal. And he comes off the middle rope after his comeback to be caught in the throat. He's going to get choke slammed. He bites Judias' hand instead. He tags in Gags. They try a double clothesline. It just doesn't work. Judias clubs them both with a double clothesline of his own. He tags in Max. And then he picks him up for a choke slam and just kind of puts him over Max's shoulders. It's a welcome to the wasteland for the 3 count. I came away going, Max and Judias were a fairly good team. What did you think?
Yep. I'm actually growing on the team. Judias is finally fitting in. That we have a similar look. You have the dreads. Keep them as a tag team. You have to figure out how you're going to wrestle them, being that it's not 2 males.
Right.
That it is a he and a they.
Right.
That I think this is the best direction that they could go for with Max. That put them together, be them a team of death and destruction, whatever they call them.
Right.
I like Judias doing the yelling and yelling out the commands. That Max is a silent but violent wrestler. So that's why you do have Father James Mitchell there. That Father Mitchell can explain what's going on if needed, but it's basically ground and pound. Let the team do what they need to do. I'm glad to see them both finally finding a piece of the puzzle and fitting together. that
Me too.
I'm hoping they do something with them, being that they're going to be in the Crockett Cup.
Yeah, they certainly are. They would. I have them as 12th team in the Crockett Cup. 12 out of 24 being basically announced so far. They're number 12, Max the Impaler and Judice. I mean, I don't know if I enjoyed the match, but I enjoyed what the match was about with Judice and Max hitting those double team moves. They've been working on it, you know. I didn't much care for the choke slam into the shoulders, and that's the Welcome to the Wasteland finish. It didn't look great, but you can see where they got it. They got it something that they're going to build on, and I like that also that they're finding their way. Rusty says, please get gags out of the NWA. Certainly get the character gags out of the NWA. We all agree here. I know Rick does. We like the guy under the mask. We say that all the time, though. But yeah, we're done with that character. We have been for a long, long time. Bob Cottle, Willie says, is number 2 behind Gordon Sully as the greatest TV wrestling commentators. I think Rick agrees. Yeah, a lot of fun to watch. Rusty met Bob Cottle many times. Nice guy. NWA is not must-see, and I take no pride in saying that. Yeah, I mean, I get it. It's not worldwide anymore in terms of media attention. But let's give, when we're criticizing like we often do, let's give credit where credit is due. I mean, in whatever capacity, the NWA has been into different cities around the U.S. We're told they're coming to Canada. Look forward to that. They have just been down to Mexico. They have just come back from Australia in a smaller capacity, for sure. But you've had NWA championships, defended in the United States, in Mexico, in Australia. There is progress. There are some things that are happening.
Baby steps.
Baby steps. We often say, we've heard about a 20-year plan. We often kind of say there is no 20-year plan. But if there is, maybe 5 years in or whatever it's been, you're not too far off where you should be. Mike says, normally I'm not into intergender tag. This, however, for myself, I liked. It was done smart for NWA standards. Nothing too stupid like other feds did years back. It wasn't insulting. It made sense. I would argue only from a cheeky standpoint, this isn't an intergender tag team match. Max is gender neutral or binary. Isn't that the term?
Yep, non-binary.
And they have built Max up to be a terrifying force. I am a big Max the Impaler fan. I think they're great. It was one of the few times with Camille when she had that women's title match where I went, is she going to drop it to Max the Impaler? And that's what I want out of my wrestling booking, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Rusty saying he saw the NWA in front of 30,000. It hurts now to see it in the hundreds. Yeah. I mean, I saw the NWA in front of probably 30 people once. So I feel your pain. And they continue to work towards becoming a national relevant company again. They have the tradition and they've got the belt and they've got the name and, they keep going. Willie's still loyal since the 60s. NWA is winding up just like Billy said himself, a glorified independent. I think that's fair. I think that's a fair criticism, Dave. They're an independent right now.
Yeah, I mean it's one of these things. Unless Billy decides to stop everything he's doing, take half, 3/4, or all of his money and put it into the NWA and sit down and plan something huge, it's his play toy.
Yeah.
He likes wrestling, so he bought a wrestling company. It's not the one he wanted originally, so he's doing what he can with what he has. Could he be doing more? Oh, definitely. But it's not. It's his side hustle. It's not his main source of revenue, main source of money. It's enough of a moneymaker that it's a tax write-off for him.
And anything can happen in pro wrestling, right? Like we were saying, this time tomorrow, Dave Marquez might be shaking hands with Billy Corgan, or, you know, so-and-so's bought Impact. Who knows, right?
Yeah.
Anything can, you know. Rusty says, it's a good comment. You have to be national to keep talent. We've talked about on the show where we look at the NWA right now like a AAA ball club. Just a side hustle for Corgan. But when we say a triple league or a minor league ball club, we mean you're going to see stars of tomorrow on their way up. They don't last forever. You're going to see the stars who are winding down their careers on their way out. Won't last forever. That's what it is. That's what it is right now. And it'll take time and money and success to make those things change. Mike says, same with me, Tim and Rusty. In New York City, the few limited appearances the NWA had there. Meadowlands Arena in New Jersey almost packed 13,000 there. Billy has been playing. I want to buy a promotion for a long time, not just NWA or TNA. He did it with ECW. Once Paul E. heard what Billy wanted to negotiate with on terms, Billy countered, then left ECW. This was only during the Carino, Billy, Rhino debacle before Dusty came in. Yeah, I mean, he wanted TNA. He ended up with NWA. Dave Marquez should have bought NWA Pro Wrestling from the start. I mean, we all would have loved that. And, you know, who knows? I mean, who knows what will happen in the future? I certainly know nothing. I'm not trying to suggest anything, but anything can happen. Let's go now to do some fantasy booking around the Crockett Cup, because Dave's got some thoughts around the championships and whether or not they're going to be defended at the pay-per-view. So, Dave, give us your thoughts. Will any of the men's titles be defended? Because we know the women's titles likely will be defended at the Crockett Cup, or were they all going to be tied up in tag teams?
Well, yes and yes. I believe they'll be tied up in tag team matches until the holders of the titles don't move on and either blame their partner or there's outside interference, and that leads to matches on day 2 of Crockett Cup. Now, they haven't really announced. I mean, I'm assuming that there will be a women's match with Camille.
There ought to be. She always steals the pay-per-view with the best matches.
I'm assuming there'll be a tag team match with M95. And I'm assuming that they will present the new TV title to Kinsey Page and have her defend it either night 1 or night 2. But I do know that they do have the belt.
Right.
Kyle has shown us a little of the belt, and the women, their storylines that are possible for them to use for those belts. But the men's titles, most of the titles seem to be tied up in the titles are there, but the holder of the title is involved in the tag match in the Crockett Cup. Kerry is wrestling with his father. I see that team imploding. They've been having a hard time. So who knows? He keeps building up that junior heavyweight title, he's not being the white meat baby face that his dad is.
That's true.
I see an eventual turn on Ricky. You have Alonzo, Alex Taylor once he comes back from his injury, PJ Hawks, even Rhett Titus. You have 3 to 4 guys there that can keep the title going, the fight for the title going until they decide what to do, how far they take the story.
Right.
Tyrus, he's in the Crockett Cup with Adonis. I say go with Adonis one more time, that they implode and there's another match the next night.
Right.
Plus, you also have EC3. Who knows where he fits in? He's the national champion until maybe he isn't. You also have Trevor. He's in a tag with Knox. Either of those guys can help put over Tyrus until the time is right for a new world's champion. Latimer, he's the TV champion. He has 3 defenses already. He needs 7, but have him keep building up the wins to go for the 10 pounds of gold. You've already had Bully say that he's a future heavyweight champion.
Right.
So why not? Who knows? Maybe a feud with Bully takes him to the next level. You have Jordan Clearwater, who is a former title holder of the TV championship. Have him get his rematch. Maybe even bring in Kevin Kiley, who was brought in, and then now he's having, I guess, surgery to repair some his eyes. He's had bad eyesight. But I mean, there's so many guys that are bubbling under, that if they're not doing something for the Crockett Cup, get them into a storyline for after the Crockett Cup for these titles. I mean, if Thrillbilly wins the national champion, if he becomes the national champion, build him up and make him strong for 6 months and then have him go after the 10 pounds of gold.
Right.
Quite a few guys. I mean, Kratos, him and Odinson are possibly teaming for the Crockett Cup, but they're also singles wrestlers. Use all these guys to build up your championships and make them stronger. I mean, EC3, Scion, they're both national champions or former national champions. Have these guys put over up-and-comers to give the belt some meaning. So, I mean, you have all these champions that are involved in the Crockett Cup, but them being involved in the Crockett Cup builds to storylines after the Crockett Cup. Why do you need any of these champions to win a championship cup? That cup is for tag teams. If you're not going to have, if you're not going to have your current world or your U.S. tag champions win the Crockett Cup, build up a new team to win that cup and then go after either the U.S. or the world title in the tags. That you have some strong teams, they just need to be built up. And what I would do is down the line, have Power just have specific episodes of this is an all-women's, this is an empowered Power, where we feature all the women's belts. Oh, we're having a tag team championship Power series, where there may be 2 weeks of USA and Power, where you have some of these tag teams qualify to go after the championship. Make your episodes mean something. Even if it's USA, That's where you build up and make new contenders. When you make those new contenders, bump them up to power to then go after the belts.
Right.
It's one of these things that by having all the men title holders in the Crockett Cup, it's building up new rivalries for down the line.
It makes sense to me.
If a team works, they work. If not, I mean, Kratos and Odinson, you look at those guys and you're like, good God, that is a lot of beef in the ring. It cuts down on what they have to wrestle being a singles wrestler, and they can highlight each other. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, shake hands and move on.
I actually forgot Kratodenson, or as someone suggested, was it you? The Gods of War. That's a great name. They were in the Crockett Cup, and aren't the Now also in the Crockett Cup? I think they are. You're I can't hear you anymore. I think you've.
Oh,
there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, great thoughts. Let's see what the chat says. I'll put it up, but I'm not going to read it. Rusty said, demonetizing Mike, everybody. It's the demonetizing Mike moment. I promise you, I'll get a little logo or a 5-second video to put up. And maybe Willie Bowen's Tyrus joke of the week. Billy should sign Camille exclusively, 100%. She works independence, but I think she enjoys the relationship that they have right now. Mike says Silvio needs to come in at the end of the year and wipe clean the junior heavyweight division. We'll see how that goes. He's in tremendous physical condition, that's for sure. Yes, Scooby, or even have Billy make videos just for the Crockett Cup, for the NWA Extra channel. Make Crockett event videos. Yeah, I appreciated it as a kid when the Road Warriors won the Crockett Cup. It seemed like the best tag team. Rick says the now for Crockett Cup winners. I'm a big fan of the Now. Me too. But there were makeshift tag teams. There was Lex Luger and Sting, just super popular. There was Dusty and Nikita Koloff won the Crockett Cup, and it was also the right decision, actually, because of Magnum TA and that storyline, that real life storyline that where Nikita kind of turned face, and I'm doing this for Magnum, and the U.S. title and all of that good stuff that happened. It was the superpowers were the right call. So I guess you can have situations where those, where champions or singles wrestlers can get in there. But I agree that the Crockett Cups for tag teams, I am a tag team wrestling first guy, and that's my jam. But we got to get out of here, my friend. It's time to go. Time to call it a day. What did I do with the banners? Where are the banners? Here we go. Find us on social media. Alliance-wrestling.com, your number one source for news and information around the National Wrestling Alliance. They are at alliance-wrestling.com. Honestly, I do believe it to be your number one source for news and information for the NWA. It has everything in there. It's updated all the time from different voices all over. Where can they find you, Dave?
You can find me at Dave Scooby on Twitter and on Instagram.
I am at at the Alliance Gold on all of the social media platforms under the same name as well. Jeremy's at HJWOTS on Twitter. He's also at youtube.com/@worm5559, where he does interviews of his own with personalities around the wrestling scene. Some really good ones as well. Tomorrow night, Rick Del Santo joins, as we've mentioned, Jaden and J-Cal on the Alliance Guys podcast, filling in for DKM. That'll be fun to watch. And of course, Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific, it's the pre-party, that hour before Power with the boss himself. Tonight, however, I'm going to pull the overlay up. At 10 p.m. Eastern, it's Mikey O'Shea as the guest in the sessions with J-Cal. As mentioned, he was a wrestling analyst with a popular YouTube channel whose dream came true as a pro wrestler. He's been doing that for, I believe, about 12 or 11 or 12 years right now. He's a West Coast Wrestling Connection tag and legacy champion. It's going to be fun. I encourage you to that is tonight in just a couple hours. So please tune in for that. I want to thank you guys in the chat for being here. Rick says maybe the Mulkeys should come back for one more Crockett Cup appearance. I have heard that the Mulkeys occasionally wrestle. I don't know if it's been a couple years, but that's what I hear. They did get in, didn't they, Dave? They beat the Gladiators, as I recall.
Yes. Well, and it is in Winston-Salem, which is Dawson country. And if you know the first season of Power, the Dawsons were in the very first match. So who knows? They could be a team that could possibly jump in there and try and qualify. Would love to see them. I mean, if Billy likes big guys, they're definitely big guys.
100%. I would mark out for the Dawsons. They're fun. The Mulkeys, Mike says to his knowledge, have donned the tights or probably hung up the tights. Last time I heard of them wrestling was 2019. So he's going to watch the whole stream tonight because DKM will be out on Thursday, rather. And tonight, of course, Rick, we're all looking forward to that. Willie points out that Luger and Sting won that Crockett Cup. You're darn tootin' they did. Anything is possible. Guys, thanks for being here. We appreciate it. Until next time, we'll see you at the matches.
Thanks for joining the stream. This has been a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com. We genuinely appreciate your support. Would you consider subscribing so you'll never miss a future episode? I'd also like to remind you we do a live stream every Tuesday at 5 p.m. before NWA Power. You can find us on social media at The Alliance Blog. And until next time, we are The Alliance.